Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring a PvP with PantsB in the top right corner. That would be the second choice of Pants if this was a multiple choice test. And you have BoneCarlos in the bottom left playing the blue Protoss. BoneCarlos, I believe, is in Platinum, as is PantsB. Both of them in Platinum. You know, red versus blue means that this is probably on the ladder, especially because we are on Entombed Valley, which is a fantastic ladder map featuring a small ramp down to the natural, which has a much larger ramp down to the main middle ground, that small little divot, making it so that it's not the biggest thing in the world to have to deal with surrounds and whatnot. But we have some destructible rocks separating the natural expand to the third. Destructible debris basically go down at the 12 minute mark whenever the player decides to grab their third expand, but that destructible rocks is usually used to open up the pathway between the two bases rather than a surprise attack, as the pathway into the natural has to go through whatever defenses were put in place by the main player. See, both players are throwing down a pylon gateway. I mean, it's Protoss. If there was any shenanigans, it would have happened already. We can see that BoneCarlos is sending out his first probe, but that's literally the only deviation from the build order between the two. That he appears to be one up on the probe, but both players are just now spinning their chrono boost to get those probes out while maintaining a single chrono boost. I guess they're going to use that once the gateway pops. Maybe speed up that zealot creation, or maybe they're going to save all that chrono boost for the warp gate tech. You know, only time will tell, and that's what makes this matchup so exciting, is that I have absolutely no idea what tech tree they're going to choose to go. We know that it's cybernetics core for the both of them, but again, that just opens up more possibilities. That really doesn't negate any other possibilities. We don't see any proxy pylons going down. We don't see any stargates being put into play yet, but the night is young, and we're going to see exactly where this leads. See BoneCarlos almost getting caught by Pants. He was pulling a lot of drones, probes, 7 of them in total, just trying to take out that probe. And some people think that that's just a waste of APM, but in reality, if he managed to get a surround on that probe, then that would have been a loss to Pants, or to BoneCarlos. Not only is that scouting loss, but it's also a probe that's not going to go back, not going to mine any minerals, not going to be able to drop any pylons down in the foreground. So that does go down to that first zealot coming out. We can see the cybernetics core is already finished up for BoneCarlos, and he's got a stalker out, or coming out. Once that stalker does pop, it's going to be able to deny any further scouting by PantsB. Stalker is pretty much the mainstay in the Protoss army for dealing with that early scouting play. Their range and their very quick ground movement allow them to deny any scouting from probes, and also allows them to kite any low tier tech. So stalkers are basically your all-around harassment dealing unit. Another gateway coming out for both players, as we can see that warp tech is about halfway done on both sides of the camp. A lot of chrono boost being saved up on the Nexus on Pants' side as well as Carlos. That chrono boost is going to be spent down by Carlos to make it so that that warp tech comes out quicker. Warp gate is one of those upgrades that you just can't live without if you're a player on any skill level for Protoss. It's just like Zergling speed or a majority of other techs, where you're not playing to your full potential if you allow yourself to get to the mid game without that specific upgrade. We can see a robo facility coming out for BoneCarlos. Looks like a 2-gate into robo. We don't see any expansion out of either player, so that robo facility is definitely a good call. Mortals and observers come in so much handy. That they do so much, especially observers. Being able to see exactly what's going on in your opponent's base is absolutely just priceless. If BoneCarlos had an observer right now, he'd just see 2 gateways just now getting an expansion. You can't overstate the amount of damage a well-placed observer can deal to an opponent. Right now, BoneCarlos is looking like he's going to continue to warp out units. He's got 2 sentries down to only the 1 of Pants. That's a small difference, but in reality, those sentries, if you get them early enough, are going to continue to get energy that can be used later on to throw down multiple force fields, and those force fields can spell defeat, especially if they can separate the zealots from the sentries. If they can separate the sentries from any other unit and you can pick them off, that energy is incredibly important to keep tabs on, and to get those sentries out early allows you to get more energy to use later. This small ramp allows a player to block off the opponent's army completely with one force field. This much larger ramp makes it much more difficult if you only have a single sentry, but with multiple sentries, further ground control can be achieved. You can see 2 immortals and 1 observer are slated to come out. It's interesting that BoneCarlos decided not to get an observer straight off the bat, as it's very popular to see. Usually you see an observer before immortals, just so the player knows exactly what's coming in, but it looks like BoneCarlos is staging his own expansion plus some aggression. He's got a good, healthy mixture of immortals and stalkers. Not the most mobile of armies, but certainly more range-oriented than Pants, who has several more zealots thrown into play, and again, the single sentry. But that sentry's been out for a while now. It's got quite a bit of energy, and it should be able to throw down more than a few force fields to help hold this ramp whenever Carlos decides, if he decides to move out and do some aggression. You can see that he's got 4 sentries, most of them with a decent amount of energy. You can see this guy's almost got full energy, so that's almost 4 force fields. He's definitely got enough for 3, I can tell you that right now, because I can do basic math. So it looks like BoneCarlos is coming in. Some of the zealots were a little bit pushed forward, allowing the stalkers and the immortals to focus them down. Several well-placed force fields kind of isolates the majority of Pants' force. Unfortunately, they were able to slip up to the top side, some stalkers pushing in, but this immortal has been unable to do the damage that it needs to do. It's constantly being pushed out of the way because of these force fields. Now it's focusing down those sentries, who all go down, but there's 2 full health immortals that are now in the expansion. It looks like the only standing force that Pants has is the single immortal. He's warping in 2 zealots to spend some of the excess minerals. You can see he's got 800 minerals, and he throws down the GG, which is a good call. Both players floating a lot of minerals. I feel like multiple gateways. These 2 came down right when that aggression was happening. If they had been functioning moments before, maybe 1 or 2 more rounds of warped in units could have helped to deal with this. You can see that BoneCarlos has a significantly smaller amount of force than he did whenever he started the aggression. Yeah, 2 immortals are very intimidating, but if you just constantly churn out units, eventually you'll wear them down. Again, the observer, if Pants had seen this aggression coming, he could have reacted. He didn't, because he didn't. The robotics facility came significantly later than BoneCarlos. You don't really see a 2-gate into Robo. It's a bit of an awkward opening, especially without a lot of aggression, but it was incredibly effective. I feel like this is not the first time that BoneCarlos has done that. I am Ibigandscary. I deeply appreciate you guys watching this. If you have a comment, you can leave me a comment. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could send me a message with the game. That'd be awesome. You're awesome. I'll see you guys later.